Okay, folks, I'm back. This is Michael's Backyard Marina. I'm going to put my carburetor back together today. I took it apart yesterday, soaked it, cleaned it. Now I'm putting it back together today. I went and picked up my new gasket kit, and I'll show that to you here in a second. But I'm going to show you, I've got everything laid out here. I got all the screws sorted out a little bit here. Got the jets here. Got a little gasket that I don't have no idea where that goes, but I'll discover it. And then I got my two needle jets here, where I'm guessing these are the air mixture jets, are at the bottom of the carburetors where they go. We'll be reinstalling those. But I'll go through the, I haven't opened up this kit yet. I just tore the package open a little bit, but I got this kit from Napa for my carburetor. And it's got a lot of stuff in it. It's got your instructions, and it's got a lot of gaskets going on in here. More than you need, actually. See if I can get this centered up on the shot here. There we go, that's a little better. But we got, looks like a base gasket here. Looks like this gasket could go somewhere along this lines right here. Yeah, look at that. Fits. Got another gasket. And another gasket, and another gasket. You can see these look very different here. Quite a bit different. This one's got a big opening that's not there. So if I look at the gasket that I had on my carburetor, this is where this comes in handy. See, that one looks like it fits perfectly, but this is the gasket that was actually there. Looks like all the holes line up, so this is an extra. So it looks like I'll be using that one right there. That's why you kind of hang on to your old stuff. Kind of take a look and see what fits and what matches up for you. I do have the old, here's the old. Looks like this one goes here. Hard to see between the base and the base of the manifold mount and the carburetor. So I'll be looking to see which one of these match up, because I've got several choices here, it looks like. And that one looks like that one matches up pretty good. All the holes, oops, match up on that one. And this one looks almost identical to it. In almost every way. So it looks like that's kind of cool. I got two of those. And what I look for is all the little oblong holes. So you see here, this one has a little oblong hole here and here. That lines up. Matches up. Oops, look at that. I got it backwards. Booyah. There we go. It still lines up with everything. So that looks like my choice there for that gasket. That one looks like that would lay on here just like this. Maybe. Yeah, it has to kind of go like that, don't it? It can't. Huh. Apparently not all the holes were used. But what you do want to make sure is that all the holes you do have coming through on your base piece here come through here. Because if you're blocking any of that off, then you're going to inhibit how this thing is supposed to perform. So that looks like that's the way that goes. And then there's a super thick one here. I'm not sure what that would be used for, but I'm sure there's some applications out there that use it. So we'll throw that one over there, and we'll throw this one over there as not used. This is, I believe, on the top of the carburetor. Let's see. Nope, that's too small for that. So that doesn't go there. This might be around this on the choke. We haven't pulled that apart yet. I've been inside there before and it looks okay. So I'll set that aside there. Looks like a couple more little pieces of clips, some little check balls that didn't come out of this one. May not need any of that. Here it is. Here's the top gasket that goes up here. Now rumor has it that goes between your flame arrestor here. Rumor has it you don't want to use this because it can soak up gas and oil and it can also ignite. So I'm gonna set that aside. I'll heed their warnings. There's another intermediate gasket here. Where is I'm missing a piece. Hold on, there it is. Left that on the other bench. Here's the other piece we took apart and cleaned up yesterday. And we got to get a gasket that fits that. Looks like that one lines up pretty good. That's one choice. Looks like here's another choice. And that looks like that fits it as well. So I don't have any of the leftover original gasket. But since this has a little slot right here, I don't know if you can see that, there's a little slot right there. It doesn't appear to go anywhere, but this piece has that slot cut out in it, so I'm going to go with this one. This one seems to be the right one for that. I'll set this aside. This, I haven't seen a place for that to go yet. There's an extra spring. Aha! Here's the beautiful little, look how pliable that is. That has nice flexibility. That's your, goes right in here. It fits down in that bottom there, and that's your accelerator pump. So that will actually do something now for me. Actually give me that shot of gas to make this thing run better. The one that's on here, there again, it's just hard as a rock. It's just aged. Now what I've noticed on this one is this one's got a little swaged out piece right here that keeps this from falling out. And my new one looks like it would just slip right in there. But then it has like a circlip that holds it in place. So what I'm going to end up doing is taking this one here, taking this screw off, right here, flat blade screw, sliding this off of here, taking it over to the grinder, and I'm going to have to grind that little swage off to get this piece off so I can put the new one on. So I won't bore you with that, but I'll show you a little snapshot afterwards. So we'll take a break here for a second, get this off of here, get that new piece on here. I've got a new piece here. This is looks like the float seat. So you see the new one here in the package. I got a float seat, a new float needle, some gaskets in there. So I'll get all that replaced out here real quick too before we get started putting it all back together. Stay tuned. Okay folks, I'm back. Okay, I wanted to show you what I did here. There's a little keeper that was there right on this tip that held this in place. And I went and ground it off a little bit so I can possibly pop that out like that. So that was up there through there like that. So I'm going to take the new one and put back up through the same way. So now you can see the new one fits on there nice and neat. I've got looks like a little keeper here maybe I could use. I'd almost prefer like an E-clip, but this will probably work just fine. Looks like that would snap on there like that. It fits on there nice tight, and it just keeps it from falling out, keeps it in place. So we've got that in there like that. So now I can put this back in here. This came off of here just like this, and I can slide this back through. You can't see this through well, but it's got a flat. It's a D shape. So now I can put that back in there just like that. Roll that back in. Take my screwdriver and tighten it back in place. So just that easily. I've got the new accelerator pump installed. I've installed my new float needle seat in here with a new had a little red gasket. There was two of them in the kit. One was thicker than the other, so I copied what was in there, which was a thin metal one, and I put the thin red one in there, so everything float needle wise should be the same height. So now what I can do is take the float needle and the float, and as you can see here, this is how the old one was. Has a little keeper on it. Got a new keeper. It snaps right on here. Just like that. That'll hang right on. I get this right here. Oh, wrong way. So that goes on there like that. So this here little hook hooks right in here. helps hold things in place for you, so you can kind of dangle that right down in the hole, get it all in position. You've got your cross pin, pivot pin for your float. Everything should just, nothing should be forced. Everything should just fall right together, just like that. So that is designed to shut off now. So I'm not going to set the height. I'm going to presume the height is pretty good. To change the height on this one, you actually would have to, to change the height on this one, you'd actually have to bend it right here. But I think we're okay. I looked at it prior to taking it apart to where it was sitting. It's in the same position, so I'm going to call that good. So I can take the old needle and seat and set it aside. Now, something I thought was very interesting after looking at the instructions here, let's see if I can show this to you. These are handy to have because it shows the order of everything that's supposed to go together. But on the accelerator pump, I noticed there's a spring supposed to be on the opposite side of the accelerator pump. It says here, use the old parts if needed from the plunger, but it gave me all new parts. But there was supposed to be a spring at the bottom, and I noticed that whenever I was playing around with this before, that this thing would just go down, and it didn't really have any spring pressure. There really wasn't anything going on there to bring it back up, which I thought was interesting. So from what I can see, there's supposed to be this spring is supposed to be in here, and then that accelerator pump, the new one, will go down in here like this and give you some spring tension there so that it has ability to push itself back up. So, and it looks like it's designed, if I'm looking at it, for this to sit there, keep that in place. So I think I'm gonna put that back in there. You never know when somebody has taken something apart and put it back together, that if it's done properly, if somebody left something out or lost a piece and they just decided it was working halfway decent without it. Same way with this screen here. I noticed that this was in here like this, which doesn't do it any good. The spring should be on this side here like this. When it's together, it's putting pressure against that to keep things sealed. So it's sealed up against the bottom here and keeps it tight. You can still, if it gets too full, it can spring open and bypass to let fuel through if that ever got completely clogged up. But so it's just different things you discover when you find other people have messed with your stuff. So like this here, I can stick that back in here where it belongs. Just a second here. There's a new gasket that fits on it right there. That'll seal that right up. Actually, I like that gasket better. Whoops. It's gonna fit a little closer. This one fits a little loose. Oh yeah, that fits much better. So I'll put that in there. Put the spring in here. This is then your fuel filter is back in place. Then once I get the carburetor back on, I'll snug that up a little more and make sure she's good and sealed. Okay, so that part of the carburetor I would feel is done. I'm going to go ahead and put the needle seats back in the bottom here. That's where they were at. I've got those clean and blown out. Everything's in really good shape there. Apologize if I'm not always centered up on the camera here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take that all the way down till it bottoms out. You don't want to force it. Like I said, before I disassembled it, I counted the turns, or what position these were in. It's right there. That one just bottomed out. That one there just bottomed out. So I'm going to go half, 1, 1.5. I'll take this and do the same thing. I go half, 1, 1.5. That way they're both backed out 1.5. They should be balanced that way. As close as I can get it anyway. As you can see, the slots aren't facing the same way. During the machining process, that would be difficult to maintain between this part and that part, everything coming out just exactly the same. So, with that being said, I can take this is the base. I can take this gasket, stick back on here. This base went on here. Like so. See if I'm in the picture here? Yep. So you can see there's levers over here. You can see how things line up on here. Everything matches up. Just double checking some other gaskets here. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with how that looks. That looks like that works. And this one would go right back on here, just like this. As you can see, there's just 3 screws that hold this in place. And I'm not using any gasket material or gasket seal or anything. You don't want to do that. I prefer to let the gaskets do what they're intended to do. And that's to, they get a little, they're designed, a lot of gaskets are designed to take on a little bit of oil and a little bit of the gas, any petroleums, and they swell up and they help seal themselves off even better. Now here again, I like to put everything together, get all the screws started loosely, make sure they're going through the gaskets, no pinches. And once you get them down in there, kind of see how things look here. Thing looks like it's in the position it's supposed to be in. I'll finish tightening those down. Get them good and snug. Really don't want to over tighten things because that can warp stuff over time. Alright, so now we got that together. Next step is going to be putting the, I don't know if these are the jet nozzles or what do you want to call these. We'll put these back in. So, got the gasket in there. Something's not setting right. Gasket fits pretty snug in there. Ah, see the little slot that was in there. And the slot in there is all these little alignment pins to come into play. So we'll get those. Still not liking how that's fitting right now. What's going on? Something feels funny. Oh, that fits right there. Maybe I'm just feeling the little, like I said, the gasket almost feels a little wide along these edges. I think I'm going to go and just trim a little bit off of here and here so it just rests down in there. Be right back. Okay. Now I think that'll just lay right in there where I want it to. There we go, no tension now. Just trimmed off ever so slight of an amount. Look at that. Now it does what it's supposed to. Got 3 screws. I got 2 tall ones. I'll screw that in there. The other tall one goes in here. And the shorter one goes in the middle here. Looks like that's all going in really nice for me. Just get them all. I'm not really torquing it down yet. I'm just getting them all in there good. Everything feels like nothing's binding and going in smoothly. Give them a nice little tweak. They got little lock washers on them, so you don't have to go crazy. There you go. That's nice and snug. That's back together. Now, the kit did not come with any new jets. That's fine, because I had soaked and cleaned the existing jets. You can see this one still got a little bit of crustation in there. This one cleaned out pretty good. So I'm going to take my little wire I used the other day. There again, it's just some welding wire. It's just such a thin, so that jet was plugged, so there was no gas coming through those cylinders at all. And that's what makes a lot of sense, is that whenever I was trying to get it to run the other day, and I could spray down one side of the carburetor and it ran pretty good compared to the other, because it was starving. It was starving for fuel. There we go. We're wide open there now. And that's what I'll be in my future. I'll be running a lot of stable through a lot of these things. I made sure air blew through these areas where the jets go. I use my little screwdriver so I can just finagle those in there and get them started in straight. Then I'll go in there with my big screwdriver so I don't mess up the screwdriver slots on them, because it spans the gap a little bit better. Look at that, started in there nice. Now I'll take my big boy. That's too big. Get my medium. It's always nice to have a selection of decent sized straight blade screwdrivers when you're working on stuff like this, because they always have. Snug that up. Let's snug that up. Alright, we got that back together, so we don't need that gasket anymore. We've consumed that one. Next one's going to be this one. Now this one was actually set this back here. This one was actually underneath the float, so I may have screwed up by putting that float back in there too soon. I did. So I'm gonna pull this pin back out, just set this right here, put this up through the gasket here. Keep in mind, if you screw the gaskets up, you gotta wait a few more days to get another set, and that gets expensive. Now, something don't seem quite right here, because I got it backwards like an idiot. There we go. It's supposed to be like this. That makes more sense. Now everything lines up. Yeah, that's just letting you guys know it's real and not rehearsed. I'll get this back in place. Slide my little keeper or a little pivot pin back in. Now, this is what I like to look around and see, are there any other parts that are laying out that should be inside this thing that are not? And so far what I'm seeing is everything looks pretty good. I got all my other pieces here. These are my, grab these here real quick. The rest of my carburetor bolts here that hold the top half down. So at this point, I think this is supposed to go here. I really do, because there's no other spring in the whole system. The spring that's there on this thing is to let this thing ride up. If it's just keeping tension on things is all that's doing. There's got to be something here that pushes it back up. That's all I can think of. It's got to be there. And it's centered up because the barrel is only so big down in here. So once you get everything compressed, it kind of stabilizes itself. So I'm going to see what I can do about putting this back together now. I think what I want to do is I want to put a little lube on this seal here around this piece, just to make sure things aren't. I'm just going to grab a little bit of any kind of oil. It don't take much of anything. Just to give it a fighting chance here. So it slides down that bore without pinching or having any other issues. Okay. I don't think there's anything else I'm missing here. Let's see if I can't. See if I can get a good shot of this. Try to get this thing started in here straight. A lot going on in this little area right now. Feels like that all went together okay. Huh, no binding. Feels like I'm doing what it's supposed to be doing there. Truth of being the workings of it. Now there's one of these screws that go in these halves that's longer than the rest of them. That longer one goes up here on this higher point. Seems like that'd be a pretty obvious thing, but not always. There again, I'm just putting things together, make sure gaskets are lining up, and I may be making a video going, hey guys, guess what? Didn't work the first time, I did something wrong. But I'll try to avoid that. There we go. Now the other thing I got to do is, I was taking this apart. I had this rod come off. It goes on this other side. I got to figure out how that goes back together. We are so close to putting this back on the boat now. I'm excited. I can't wait to hear this thing run, hopefully a lot better than it did. Now what I didn't do here is this tag was actually underneath this screw. Once I get everything on the boat and I'm done wrestling around because the tag's kind of fragile, I'll actually take that screw back out and put that tag on it. I just don't want to bend it too much and break it off. It's one of those things that's been there since 1976. I don't want to be the guy that destroyed it. Alrighty. That feels more like what it should be, I think. That's gonna go, because I do believe this thing here, there we go. I think this would have something to keep it in place. It does. When that's in working order there, that should be. So that's choked. And that, once it opens all the way up, I believe. I don't know, that don't feel right. Oh, I guess when the spring opens up, it goes that way. Okay. I'm gonna finish tightening these screws down real quick. Get them a little snug in. Can you see that, what I'm doing here? Yeah. Okay, I got them all snug. Throw a little snugging on this. That's good shape. I got all the pieces on. I got one nut left here, but that goes on the, mounts it to the carburetor, or mounts it to the base with this gasket, so I'll take that out with me. Now, let's decide what this is supposed to do. I think this was hooked onto here in a manner of such, so that when you gave it the gas, it's an accelerator pump. See, now it has spring tension on here, which I never had before. This thing was just floating around, and it should want to slam to an idle. So that's acts as, does two things. It's an accelerator pump, and it's your return spring, because my throttle linkage hooks up to here. Now, is this the right direction? I don't know. Now this should be a keeper on here, but there's not. Real curious what's supposed to hold that in place. I have a feeling. That thing is supposed to be. Those look like bushings. I might have to get some little keepers to put on there, because that just doesn't seem like that shouldn't come off like that. Oh, that's got a hole in it here on this end. Okay. I'm learning and discovering with you folks. I'm going to pause it here, and when I figure it out, I'll get back to you. Okay, folks, got it figured out. It looks like this was supposed to go around under here, so that's trapped. It can't come out. This end goes in here because it has a, let's see, can I get that right? Yeah, so that's in there. So now when you throttle forward on this thing, boom, full accelerator pump action. The accelerator pump starts moving as soon as you touch it. So it gives it that extra squirt of gas that's supposed to be going in here. I think we got it back together. I'm going to go ahead and pull this off, because this is, I'm not sure how that's supposed to be adjusted. I'm going to put a new gasket in here. It came with a gasket, so I'm going to put a gasket in here. I had these loose when I was playing around on the boat earlier in the week, or last weekend, trying to get it running. So we'll just take a look at what's going on inside here. This is your automatic choke. There's a heat riser tube that plugs in under here, screws in under here to create. And this seems to be loose here too. I don't like that. See if I can get this out of here. Should come right out. Yep. See that gasket's shot there. Lo and behold, boom, a new gasket. I'm gonna wipe this off a little bit. It's a little, see, there's not much going on in here. Wonder how that's normally held on. I bet you that plate comes out, don't it? Let's see here. Yeah, it does. Aha, lo and behold, there's a screw right there. A little crusty looking inside there. Don't like that a lot. That screw, oh, there it is. It's 2 Phillips, that's how dirty it is. 2 Phillips screws in here. I bet you they come off. Let's just clean all this up. Went through the painstaking process of cleaning up the rest of it. This looks like it'd be pretty easy to clean up too. And folks, like I said, I'm not taught to be any kind of expert. I'm just learning a lot of this stuff as I go here. And ooh, that's kind of tight. Makes me nervous. Should come off of there. There we go. Like I said, I can't say nothing about good quality screwdrivers for all the straight slotted screws on these things. There we go. Just like that piece. Magnets are handy. Snatch that stuff right out of there. Now this looks like this little piece should wiggle right off the end of that shaft. It's just a snug fit on there. I bet I can just wiggle a little bit. There we go. It's still tied to a little link. Huh. Oh, there's a little, I don't know what that's for. Huh, isn't that the cutest little thing? A little piston in there. I don't know if that's supposed to be a counterweight. Or was there supposed to be a spring behind there? Huh. Yeah, because this rod needs to be hooked in somewhere. I had it hooked in over here. It came out on me. Because I think when it's fully open like that, we'll mess around with it. Okay, I'm going to clean up my parts and I'll get back to you here in just a minute. Okay, I'm going to clean up my choke area here a little bit, all the components. I'm going to show you something that's kind of interesting I just learned. I didn't realize how this worked. This had this little piston guy right here that goes down into this thing here. And what it does, from what I can tell, is there's, whoops, the pin just came out. Let me put that back in. You can see everything just should move freely like it is right there. But what it does is there's a hole here in the carburetor, and I think the vacuum creates a certain amount of pull on that works against the spring. There's a bimetal spring here. As it heats up from the heat riser, which comes up through here, this will be sitting here like this. And what it does is it relaxes it, and it works against each other a little bit. So you got some vacuum doing some work, and that piston creates a little bit of the vacuum, and the spring works in the opposite direction. So as this thing warms up, it automatically makes that, your choke butterfly here is normally when it's cold, it's shut. It'll be just slammed completely shut, typically. Just like that. It'll be shut when the spring will hold it shut. But then as it warms up, the spring, bimetal spring, makes the butterfly open up like this. I don't know if you see that. But it opens up like that. And then it's no more choke. It's got free flowing air. Okay. Now, there's a little gasket. I can see why there's a gasket there and it's sealed. And if it's not a good gasket seal, where'd my gasket go? Huh? Oh, there it is. So if you don't have a good gasket seal, I can see where that could cause your choke to not work properly too. This thing ought to work like a champ when I'm done. So I'm going to get this line back up in there, get my Phillips screws started back in there. So if you ever grab this housing on your boat and you see it's flopping loose and the screws are come loose or the gasket's shot, probably need to look at fixing that. So all this stuff was designed and engineered to work together to a certain degree. These back in here and tighten down. Make sure everything looks like it's lined up great. Get her on there good and snug so it's just not going to be flopping around on me anymore. There. Now that's nice and tight. That housing was wiggling on me before. Now I need to get this back in there. So this was a piston. This Gonna get that back in there. That's a cute little piston. There it goes. Whoops. I'll let gravity work in my favor here. And we'll get this back on there just like that. That was back on this little, there's two little locating flats on there, just like that. And this little straight blade screw here, slotted screw, it's holding it all together. My bigger one again. Help hold the screw for me. I'll try to tighten that down. I don't know what to hold on to here, really. There, gotta get it tight. So now you can see that little, see if I can get it to actuate here. See that little piston moves back and forth in there. Kind of cute little job. Then this plate was back in there. I think it was in this direction. Now it's got a flat on it, so it goes in there and sits in there and locates. So lets it have the full free range of movement there, no obstructions. And the spring, I'm going to guess, needs to be on this side. See how it's got a hook shape here? I'm going to let it hook onto that, be on this side. And we're going to put the gasket in here too now. Again, everything's sealed. That makes sense now that I see it. It has these little keepers. Oops. And these have a curve to them. Come on. I'll show you that. I don't know if you can see that in the picture. They got a little bit of a curve to them. You want to put the curved side so that the tension when you tighten the screw down is pushing down out here. And what you'll see, I saw in some carburetors, is this screwdriver slot here will be cracked out because somebody tried to adjust the thing without backing off the screws. Don't do that. That just makes it look like you don't know what you're doing. And we all want to look like we know what we're doing. That's what I'm trying to do here, even though I don't know what I'm doing. A little common sense goes a long ways on these projects. Just be gentle, don't force anything, because trying to find spare parts for this stuff can be kind of difficult. So what I'll do now is I can feel just the screws starting to put a little tiny tension on there, not much at all. Just know that they're in place. Now I'll use my biggest screwdriver, so it's a big slot there, and I'll turn this till I see it pull. Oops, I had my finger on it. That was bad. Till I see it what's going on here? Oh, got something. Oh, now that I got now that I got tension on the throttle from having a, there we go. So I'll open that up so you can see that just pulls it shut. That's all I'm gonna do that for now. Just enough to hold it shut. That's it. I'll tighten these up just a touch. Do the final tightening when I'm in the boat. So there's a completely rebuilt carburetor. Nothing much to it. Everything's hooked up here. These linkages are all hooked back where they belong. So you can see this one works with the choke linkage. Still not sure what it does on this piece other than it just, I think when you go to give it gas, if it was cold, as you can see what I did right there, because normally if you're running and it would be, when you last shut it off and it cooled off, once you gave it a little bit of throttle, just barely moved it and it slammed shut. You got choke all the time. All right, I'm gonna pause there. We're gonna go put this back in the boat. Okay folks, I'm back. I got the carburetor mounted, as you can see here. Got the water running here in the background on the thing right now. I fired it up. I made a quarter turn in on the 2 screws down under here, the idler screws. And automatic choke's working perfectly now. You can see my pretty new blue wires on there, a new set of spark plugs. And before I couldn't get this thing to idle down under 1,000 RPM. Check this out. Fires up and runs like a champ. I'll engage it and rev it up here. Dead gear. Bad. Running pretty darn good. I got a little leak on the exhaust manifold with water coming out. I'm going to have to possibly pull that off and raise that hole shut. Other than that, he runs like a top. I couldn't be more happy. I'm going to set the timing on it next to see the timing where it needs to be, and I think we'll be done with that. I'll check back in when I'm doing the timing.